Sanje Juna Zoye Jona Shanje Parda Dana Gyosu Dage Jinso Yebe Sonam Yen Rola Panje Sanje Drubar Sanje Juna Zoye Jona Shanje Parda Dana Gyosu Dage Jinso Yebe Sonam Yen Rola Panje Sanje Drubar Sanje Juna Zoye Jona Shanje Parda Dana Danje Jinso Yebe Sonam Yen Rola Panje Sanje Drubar Simjan Tamje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Dembar Gyurche Donga Dan Donga Je Judan Tawar Gyurche Donga Membe Dewa Tamba Dan Mandra Gyurche Nyere Chodan Nyedan Tawe Danyan Chimbo Lan Gyurche Simjan Tamje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Dembar Gyurche Donga Dan Donga Je Judan Tawe Gyurche Donga Membe Dewa Tamba Dan Mandra Gyurche Nyere Chodan Nyedan Tawe Danyan Chimbo Lan Gyurche Simjan Tamje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Dembar Gyurche Donga Dan Donga Je Judan Tawe Gyurche Donga Membe Dewa Tamba Dan Mandra Gyurche Nyere Chodan Nyedan Tawe Danyan Chimbo Lan Gyurche Kanjaya Sanjara Jara Nane Mandara Nana Jenu Jena Nana Rojima Basanza Sawane Pino Kayanda Kanjara Nabajira Jara Degi Kwanzamba Kayamba Teta Tamjatava Tambekoje Tibi Sonyan Shen and the Hya Adana Madama Jaya Wanda Jana Sochi Java Javana Sanje Sonara Deshana Devi Wanda Shiki Tambishunyan Shen and the Hya Kanda Joja Dangan Jitana, the Yanamakiva, Consoda, don't be Chuji Chamber and Yamantova Tams. The here, like a don of Janga, Dodon Megan, Don, Ruakan Jetagas, Tamcheka, the dog, Chuda, oh, yeah. Tangazu. Zanda Niva Senare, the Galas Niva Tela, Yan Kinyam, Zomba Tela, Trahi Delexia, what in this year?
So, whatever we call it a second class or second day of the class. Well, I would like to say Tashidele to every one of you.
Oh, Tene Tangi Shayati Samarikpa Senare, Tensurikpa Senare, Te Chada Yore, Tandi Joshi Zonawati Je Chakayore, Tsema de la Monsum Tsamata, Jiba Tsamani. Tene Te Zo Sosu Hishinisar Hakovala, Randan la Pangayore. Tene Dunga Yanda Tan, Sunjan Yanda Sena Tangere, Niyore, Dinani Dunga Siati Janla Jumsangatani, Tene Shishin Luchik, Pa Mutrapatela, Dunga Songayore. Then Tatinyam de Lavshan and etc. Sunjin Yanda, Tanger Yanda Sena, Pashoti, this Samna Tantanda, Nord Diona, Cherangate, Nord Dugusia, Motrapi Ched, the Richan and the Richard over the Asen. O Tombatela, Sunjin Songre. Tati Je Yantaba in Basheore, Yantaba Mayemba Sheore, the Richan on the that Nasu Tensu Ripinala, so that they get it on your.
So, when we talk about the epistemology or valid cognition, then there, whatever we call it, we might call it valid cognition or logic reasoning itself. There are four compartments that we are going to talk in this, and the first one is direct valid cognition and the indirect valid cognition. Those are to have a right view. And there is also another one, another two, which is statement of proof and statement or true refutation. The statement of proof is to understand or have a right cognition for oneself. And statement or the true refutation is that when we see the mistakes in others and when we refute with that, we can have a right cognition there as well. So for that, there are four statements that we talk for the valid cognition, and there are four which is invalid cognition.
Tsema Teshaka Yovichane Rikpinindela Tsema
And among them, the above two are known as the valid cognition itself. One is the direct valid cognition and another is indirect valid cognition.
Tene Drunga Dan Sunjing Kaula Tiensik di Zo Donkyore. Tene Yino Diga Dela Yang Josha Tichani Tiensik Pasini. O Ming Tata Nirochi.
And the second two, the statement of proof and true refutations, are morely known as a logic itself, or the logic.
Oh, the that Yino Diga Tangasu Town de Tsema Sena Kandichila Kore Seti.
And the first one is we're going to discuss about what is the meaning of the valid cognition.
That Tsema Sion Diga Melavi Hiba.
And
Then Tinkmala Tonda de Hako Mevachik. Then Tomer Manerva Hako Soma Tindrichigla. Then Tsema Songwe.
then when we say valid cognition, it literally means that non-deceptive.
Ta ngasu de tanya de koyawo do china Tsema se de. So maybe kansa la Tsema se. Then so maybe Hibala Tsema se. So maybe nga senare long senare tendela yang Tsema seni. Kiwa Tsema, Hiba Tsema, long Tsema seni. O tendichin songyore.
So when the person is correct, or the valid person is a valid, or Tsema is valid person, and a valid scripture, if there is a right scripture, that's a valid scripture. And another is, if you have a valid perception or valid cognition, it is known as valid perception. There are three.
Tati noni kiwa Tsema seyondiga kansa kyabarchan. Ta konga kare sona donla degara yimba. Tene jamba la ngorkur kyunni martonba. Yorgyo meshenka ngorkur martonga. Donda la melhovi kansa jen melhonkanka kansa chigla kiwa Tsema.
So when we talk about the valid person or valid being, then the valid being is the one who doesn't lie or who doesn't do anything wrong to anyone in any ways. That we can know as a valid person.
Ta te tawi kiwa Tsema seyaga tanya te ngasu ndog nalo la chondu. Te dode nyangal nindi bag nala. Then give it some tanya thing musiore.
So when we say the valid person, that valid person is the name or the word was occurred in the sutra of Mahaparvi Nirvana Sutra, that stated that there is the valid person, the term valid person is there.
Ti kaula sonya te ngasu jasi chanchu semba. Then sa tangwo nipa dendrila nipa te desan chik chen la gyenshu seta. Ta tega na je then samba jewa ngawa go part then chagong sen. Ta tiso parchi gosa mari. Tondo chena sa chola nibi chanchu semba teso la. Then tsami kyo sondos.
So what kind of person is known as a valid person? Then whoever is in the land of the first land or second or third or fourth, or whoever is in the who have achieved the 10th bhumi, or who resides in the bhumis, noble bhumis, they are known as a valid person.
Tela tsik dawo kari sondu sena, deda na devjen kekwa shinde sangye dan kyabar mebar sa cholan nibi chancho senpa tesore. La dan man nangi tomba yende jechare yo, kiwe tsama yeno sene, tsik dende sondu.
So what they have said is, if someone's like Tathagata or who have achieved the bhumis, they are known as the noble beings or the valid person, valid being.
Tandi kaula ngasu sosu tsawi lama chu shasa desu tani jan malong kan yorgyung chenkan mayenba. Tani ngone chani kare sona terang dolna nideyowa. Tani tetawi sosu lama tsawi lama tesu tenri chik sosu la towiate pe kichembore.
So for that, our own root guru, who doesn't really lie for the sake of himself, who practices what he preach, that's also very important.
Ngasu lama seyate ta chu songkan soso la tarwa dan tamchin kenbi lam tongkan de chagda yore. Ta te manor ba chigdan lam ti manchar ba soso la ya hur ma shepa zun ma songkan. No ta te tawi gewi shinye te ta tarwa dan tamchin kenbi lam la yer changkan chagda barwa. Te chik lam norwa chik tenshana tene ngoni ngasu te gen machik sacha chik lan ro yo na. Te lamka shamba chik ten kyoran tene paan ro shana dhikri sene. Tega nao shen ro shana tene soso lamka te nor ni lepsa te marlabi nyinga te yore o. Ten rao lam tongkan se te yang takpa chi yeman te pe kichimbo.
And our guru or our lama or our dharma teacher who shows us the path towards the liberation, and that person has to be non-deceptive, or who doesn't show you the wrong way. And if someone is like, if you are going to this way but he shows the other way, that's not the right way to go. But when we have a gurus or the lamas, that needs to be appropriate, and that is very much important.
Ta ngasu jikten la samna tawna yang chokpo sorry kaula melong wi tropo chik rayati ki chimborendo perna gorka tongkan yagzan shenkan teni sosu tsani chik panjar rawa yanare teni kepsan lenkan teni janla chik semzangwa menkan tropo teni rawa chik tuk sona teni kyongra khando te mayemba nguni tropo yakpo chik tukna te sosola chik mache kaanla kadiyina pen tokadwa deso nanga chikpa rawa.
So even if we talk about our normal mundane worlds where we have a friends, we need friends who doesn't lie, who doesn't deceive, who doesn't take advantage of ours. Or if we have some friends who is taking benefits for the sake of himself, then we might have difficult time with them. But if we have friends who is really helpful and who doesn't deceive, who is true to us, then that can be very beneficial for us.
Tere, ta tsoon di kaula nga su melawi kanza se la wandi lo melaw sena ta chetang da pache tanda kongu kasha sheya di tani koda tab kare da yana nga su chik pe rawa shana ta ma chik tani chokpo chik la tani ngamba rawa chet tani wata kherang la ngi kone rawa yanare top rawa yanare likan rawa yanare wata ngi yakpo chik raya tabi che yon seni tani bekha rawa tani lang thana rokpa machi na ta ten rawa jengkan tela tani hlui kanza segiri ta ku te hlasong rawa.
So the main thing is the Tsema, or the right person, is the one who is non-deceptive. And for example, if you have a friend who you give something and then he said that he says that give me something and I will give you some power or position. He allures you in that way, and then later if he doesn't help, then that's also in a way being deceptive.
Ta tani long tsama se te long tsama se long senaya dona nga re ke nga cha da yore nga tsama se onde ga so so chulukan ne di tomba ga son de nga cha da yore tende tombi son di jan malawa chi yimbala tene tombi son de long tsama se yore tene yang son japa don la nigme jana no kyo na de long tsama cha kyo mare tanda chi perna gergen rawo inare ro tene rawo chi gende re se lab jabo chi don la nigme na tati ko nga tsama cha kyo mare.
So when we talk about the valid scripture or valid words, it is basically the word from the master or the main guru. It can be in any religion or any religious way. And when the Lord or the authority teacher or master says the right word, that can be known as a valid scripture or valid instruction. But when the master himself says something which is not true, then it doesn't become the valid instruction or valid scripture.
tere ta tani hibat samma tere ta nga zo di kaula sheya ti hibat samma ti chi hibat samma te la tani ta ngo te rang yer sard tokpa chi yer ten do na tinghon la ma hi wa chi she song chi Di hiba nangin don la nor meba. Soso la hiba di gangzak di malwa. Tende chagda yo na da hiba de la soso nga su gyuna yo hiba de la tsama la ku yore.
So when we talk about the perception or the valid cognition, it is the thing, or it is the understanding, the clear understanding, and which is you haven't understand before, but you understand it better and clear now, and it should be non-mistaken. It should not be the mistaken perception, but the right perception. If the perception is right, then it can be it is known as the valid cognition, and if it is not so, then it is non-valid cognition.
Ta di kawla shiba di yor di ha kowa malawa chi chak siye di tanga su pen ra ut ani shiya na pen na ta kansa chi ta hotel ra wa chi tsigi yo wa chi ra drang khan ra wa chi drang khan ra wa chi tsi ni tani pa ta yang we kawla tan khan bi ta nan drang khan yin se ni tak da tindi yo ra yige tan tindi yo ra ta te tani 통화 나전 돈 라요 소나 다고 당번 런카 요메 파 따라와 때 먹기 희바디 런카 데 통요래 또 요래 다데 나전 코란 파도는 런카 요래 다 코란 그 먹기 희바디 코란 흘요 말이
So to understand the perception, for example, if one person is searching for a hotel, and while he walks, if he sees some signs like there is a hotel, and if he goes and see there is an actual hotel, then he is not deceived or he is not mistaken.
다 지글라 먹신다 야포 메와치 되네 파 때온데 되네 왔다 런칸게 딱독 전 되네 돈라 맨칸도 임바치 단 런칸 라송 전이 파지로 칠레레온데 맨칸 차다요나 탐마마 미히디 다 소소 류송 미히디 소소 고르커 땅송으로 차다 다 흐스는 고르커 땅송으로 고고로
And if there is another person who is looking for hotel, and again, while he was going to see, he saw like a hotel, but as he has some defect in his eyes or he couldn't see it clearly, then he went there, but he realized that that's not a hotel, but it's a hospital. Then that's known as he's deceived in a way. So that's not a valid cognition.
다코 간간 고르커 땅송세디 코랑 그 먹기 히바디 고르커 땅송 근데 영데 코 먹기 히바디 휘송 다 먹기 히바디 휘 히바 차소
So now who deceived him? Then his own eyes, because of the effects, whatever effect in his eyes made him see in a different way. So that his eye sense consciousness or sense power deceived himself.
대 조 다 흐만로 돈다 세나레 배노 돈다 대 배노 된지기 땅 삼나다나 되네 고데오레 칼리시오 말
So those are the examples. If we see from that sort of way, then it's not so difficult to understand.
다 데이터위 참마텔라 예와도 시오나 니 용거요레 참미나로라 자샤 인시 참마 니도 된지 송거요레 참마 니 용거요레 강레세디가 찍된 원순 참마레 원순 참마디 란슨 세나레 죽라 소바디 갑도 통도 거요레 된데 연원디가 대라 원섬 참마스 원섬 세대션 지길 매봐 갑툭 통하다가 나아진다 고아된지 되니 직들라고 저는 그랬어요. 이바데 제바 참마리 제바 참마세요. 내가 빼나 도와요바 하고니 텔라테니 티제스 메요바 하고 송아타바데 제바 참마라 그래. 발깁다고 지금 도안 통도 같이 매만 통하지. 건세데 매 갑툭 통거요 말. 또 원숨 차거요 말. 다 도와도 어떤 매요사를 장거로 근데 이런데 샘나라 캐리아티 돈친도 차대요래 데라 드니 지파 참마시그리.
So when we talk about the valid cognition, and there are two kinds of valid cognition. One is the direct valid cognition, which means there is no middle object that is blocking you from the view. It is very vivid and clear that you see from your eyes or in that way. And just like ngon sum means direct. So there is no middle or third party operating out there. But another one is indirect valid cognition, which is you don't see the object itself at first, but because of some reason you see it. Just like if you see the smoke out there, you can assume or you can at least realize that there is fire behind it. Even though you don't see the fire at front, but still because of the smoke, you understand there is a fire. And that is called indirect valid cognition.
다 원숨 참마세나리 원숨 세나리 돈도 찍바리 디 뭐디 간디 시작할세 디 찬예 소미까라 똑바다 자샤 만트베 르파 손사요 똑바다 차다요 똑바 마임바 남도 마임바 되네 철베바 어떤데 지라 원숨 송요.
So when we say or when we talk about the direct valid cognition, it says that if there is no superficial, if there is no superficial judgment or assumptions in between, that is known as the direct valid cognition.
똑바다 자신세에 찍바치 만트와 세에텔라 철교시고 관계야 철마시와 세네 철위 교시 세지고래 대 강당야 만트와 근데 지글라 무슨선이야 다 샘참바당 카히야 근데 송고요.
And also from the Chitta Matra's perspective, this is that they are not mixed with four causes of mistaken or four mistaken cause, and that is not what do we call this.
추위계시오 관계야 거진 너잖니 철마성아.
Yeah, it is not it is not caused by the four causes of mistakes, then it is known as the direct valid cognition.
당가서 무힌 처리야 될라 저제 직송을 대현지오열의 직신나 삼성.
And when the eyes consciousness get confused or mistaken, there are four causes for it.
자텔라 철기 땐라 요바 열라 요바 니라 요바 대마타켄라 요바 세니 셰티테르.
So there are four. One is the mistake on the eyes consciousness itself. Another is a place. Another is and mind. And therefore there are four. Yeah. Eyes consciousness.
릭선에 Desingi soso jamnan takin.
La.
Desingi soso jamnan takin.
Plus.
Desitan dosangani.
Plus.
Dukiyar. Tati nani ten la yoba se di ngaso meki hiban di ten di meg. Meg da meki hibani kagare. Meg se di meko onwa se di ngaso tandan thon dukiya meg lauke yo se di nalo la pasho zuk kharsa chigore. Di kharsa tela tani meko onwa lauke yore. Meg yang tela lauke yore. Ngaso tandan thon dukiya mig se di meg shibdaw chada yore. Da mig hiba se yon de pasho zuk di 도시게 나서랑 냠냠 것다니 되니 하고 고야게 된디가 나로게 릭파세나레 셈세나레 너나 소수 냠냠 것다니 알아 날때 희지 도와서 바테 저당 진인데 시고 된디절라 먹기 희바라고요 다 먹게 통도야티 먹게 땐 다오래 대 먹 쉽도 차도 그렇지 근데 먹세야 돼 파쇼 고속데 손 통원데 샤사가 멜론 나진 즉 먹게 나나요 되지 텔라 때니 속데 하고시데 먹기 희바
You're confused. You're university.
연결라 본도 단단 가서 컨셉이 때에서 넣을 거라는 가서 먹 라게 된 가서 통도 견데 라고 그래요. 근데 먹 쉽도 차도 요 뭐도 먹 거나 말이. 먹 엄보세 때때 나로나 요비 죽혀서 가서 헬고도 나전지. 근데 단다 산을 비야 하고도 근데 요가 컨셉 원성도 되래. 근데 먹 희바세 온데 zuk deni duk sambi hi onshi chigoro ngaso rangla mek ko ombo tela teni zuk shi rogdo di hibati si sidi deni mek hibati hior hingan tela mek hibas.
So when we say I, normally we understand this I as a I consciousness itself, but this is just a cover of the eyes in a way. But the eye sense faculty itself is inside the eyes. So when the eyes understand, or the eyes consciousness understand, or when we see the forms and understand that this is this form and that form, that is called eyes consciousness.
Ta tende yonde muka omote muka hibi ten rete yo. Perna ngaso 타랑원의 지어봐 많더나 양식도 있잖아. 통고도. 다 양식이 타랑원의 여봐 댄식 통약 댄식도. 대 나아진 진이 먹고 어머디 먹기 힘이 댄식이요.
So when we say the eyes faculties, it is just like a telescope that we use to see things from the far, and when we see from the telescope, we see things and understand. Just like that, the eye is the body eye is the eye and the eye faculties. When the eye sees it, the internal eyes faculties will know what the object is.
Then trigger ten la yoba sing on the John make a on la yoba lakuyor. Then they make a on so.
So if we mistakenly see, then that is the mistake is in our eye sense faculties.
당가서 칩이 나서 요ken 칩박 나서 요ken 되리야나 되네 먹던 빡빡도 새로 차로도 된리가 까라 먹나로라 지 새로도 레온 거 칩박 지 된리 레온데 먹라 껴요 먹라 껴요데 디 껴텔 때네 되네 까르보 따나요 새로 통도 그요 된다고텔라 철게 텔려 봐라 그래.
So when we have a what we call biles or something, when we see everything yellow, what is the name for that disease? Sorry? Jaundice, yeah. When you have jaundice, then we see everything yellow. So that's the mistake or the fault in our eyes faculties.
Tene 철기 열라 요바세. 열세 온데 나서 먹기 희바티 열천 세그리. 열세디 파쇼고 죽딜라 고그리.
And sometimes there can be a mistake, or there can be a mistake in the object.
간이 송거세디 엄마 빼치 나한테서라 가르민 콜로 세지 송거리. 가르레 세디가 싱찌기 째라 메고 말보수 데리치 꼬르잖아. 말보 골거치 통도 그요래. 얘나 말보 골거치 요 말해. 싱찌기 째나 말보치 말도 요 말어. 된다오디 이렇게 따나 처리용의 겸선이 열 내리지 꼬르셔디. 되는 처로그. 되는 처기 열라요 봐세.
And if we make a small fire in the stick and if we make a circle, then it might look like a circle, but in the realistically there is no circle at all, and that is we call the mistake in the object.
다 당상자와이나 록드라마다 꼬르니테네 무힌 트야 빼망을 에고도 대선 트기 열라요 봐세.
And nowadays there are lots of lights. When we use in a different way, then it might create a deception to our eyes, and that we call the deception of the object.
드네 트기 니라요 봐세시거래. 니세나 소소 대사 사자 소소 대사디 고가래.
And there is also another one, which is the mistake in the place.
단 엄마 빼쳐드스나 가서서디 주의 나는 로위체 저상라 되는 로위체 파쇼가 신도서 되는 로가 요바 나전 통도 그래서 된다고 때 저게 니라 요바 그래서 어때서
The text from the older time, it states that, for example, if we are going in the boat, then we see or the place appears to be moving. That is called mistake in the place.
단다라와이나 가서 모자나니 역반 좋아한데 때 파쇼가 생각나서 차나 육도 요바도 신 통도 근도 미그 히비 때 저게 니라 요바 세 차해요.
So nowadays when we travel in the car, that we feel like the place is moving if we see from the window. So that is called the mistake in the place.
대답이 되니 저기 니래요. 되니 저기 대마 탁견을 요바세죠. 대 간세도 나로 셈을 요바 송겨. 마수 히발라.
And after that there is a preceding condition now where there is also a mistake.
담마카시 배 컨트롤 첨부 사원데 그 맥대서 직파 통도부터 말본으로 통도게 된지 요래 송거도 어때라고 때 저기 때 나로 히발라요 봐.
And when, for example, for some people, if they gets angry, they sees everything red, and that's a mistake in our perception or the preceding condition.
어떤데 지금데 다 먹히텔라 철와야 철이 희반야 요바 만철이 희반야 요바 this 하고 듣고도.
So when we talk about the eyes consciousness, there we can see sometimes we have a mistake in our eyes perception, sometimes we don't have a mistakes in our eyes perception.
다때 따위 먹히 만철와텔라 응원섬을 납고요.
And the one we discussed, if there is no mistake of anything, then that we call the ngonsum or the direct valid cognition.
다 ngonsum tel라 나시게 저당샤나 예와 제요레 엄부 ngonsum 예기 ngonsum 남제 ngonsum 라르 ngonsum 세니 ngonsum 제 송거요.
So in Buddhism there are four kind of perception or the four valid cognition. So there are 4 direct perception. The first one is Wangbong Ngonsum, or what do you call it? I just missed it. Yeah. The direct sense perception and mental direct perception. Noljer Ngonsum is yogic direct perception and direct self cognizant.
No, there. Tangaso Sakya Pant the Tsema Riktir Ganalola Chetra Mavi Lula Ngonsum Sums Dordevi Lula Ngonsum Shares Sem Zambi Lula Ngonsum Ni Seti Sonyore Tsikde Ngonsum Joan Dordi look Chetra Masum Namrik Ni Se the day Tsik Sonyore.
And Sakya Pandit, in the Treasure of Valid Cognition, he has stated that the Bhaivisika, the schools of Bhaivisika has 3 direct valid cognition, Sautantrika has 4 direct valid cognition, and Chitramatra has 2 direct valid cognition.
Ta Jawa Karmapa Kontra Dumba Chura Jasu Chetra Mavi Lula Ngonsum Some say ni tanda song yore da yana ngosum ni marto phache Chetra Mavi song ko mando song tendi chek song yore.
And the 7th Karmapa said that the Sautantrika ways of school says that there are 3 valid cognition, but there are only 2 valid cognition actually.
Tani jeme kyo doje Jawa Karmapa kontra japi ngomon zok na de sola ngosum ta yiki ngosum se de song ko do song ni ote kona bani 지금 손탄테스 카가요. ngosum.
And the 8th Karmapa said, according to the Avidharma, there are three valid cognitions. So there is a little bit of difference in the 2 Karmapas.
단 돌나 ngosum gnani ngosum jeka donkan테 돌데 바레 송요.
Insert the agreeing with the 4 direct valid cognition is the schools of Sautantrika. They agrees on 4 valid cognition.
Then Sakya Pante die sem sambilula ngosum ni marto she kamare son yore yana yang ngaso tane yawa karma ba kontra domba chura jansu sem sambilula yang ngosum she ja kore son watendi che son she
And Sakya Panditas also stated that from the point of Chittamatra, there is only 2 direct valid cognition. But the 7th Karmapa again stated that there are 4 valid cognition according to the Chittamatra.
Tati korde tendi marto shemargo wachi. Tan dorna ngosum jeg nani tawate ombu ngosum re. Ombu ngosum singondega muk ombu, navi ombu, ni ombu, ji ombu, liji ombu seyaga tesu ombu tesu sugre. Te tavi ombu la teni ji ombu ngosum chigla, tani ombu ngosum songre. Ombu sukchin bala teni ki ombu na ombu ngosum.
Now we can leave it there, talking about the contradictions. But when we talk about the 4 valid cognition, and there, if we talk the direct sense perception or conception, then there are the eyes consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, and tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. And when the direct faculties itself perceive, think as they are, then that can be known as a direct valid cognition.
Tati tavi ongu ngonsum tela ewa chi yongi kaula tanda dakyan ombo tisu tani mi pa tagani muka ombu ngonsum, navi ombu ngonsum, ni ombu ngonsum, ji ombu ngonsum, liji ombu ngonsum seni ngosum nga songre.
And if we talk about the faculties, then there are the direct sense perception of the eyes, direct sense perception of the ear, direct sense perception of the nose, and direct sense perception of tongue, and direct sense perception of body. Including that, there are 5.
Then donda te teso kare sediga zung zambe awu ngosum, dran zambe awu ngosum, then chakayo re chine.
And that what happens is, those are the faculties to see, directly seeing the form, hearing, smelling, tasting. That's how it works.
다 ngosum teso ngasorang gyonna yore. Then yondiga ngasorang gyonna yoba chik ngutrayala ko kande ke yoba tie. Shena te kode yonko yosare ngasu te shaya tafhido china samso.
So those are those faculties are within ourselves. So now how those things work, if we really discuss about it, then
Tati shabala muka omu ngosum sedi kensum la teni kegor. Muka omu ngosum sedi kono shibari. Jote sum la teni kegor.
So then if we talk about the eyes consciousness, then they have 3 direct conditions.
Di nani tangwa de dakken chi. Dakken se ondiga ta mekhi di gyu zowo dawo. Tendi chi koido.
And the first condition is the dominant condition or the controlling condition, which is the eyes itself.
Kandire se ondiga me sona zung thoi shiba de ngasu gyala yongomando.
The reason is, if we don't have the eyes, then we don't see any form.
Tere. Ta kandire chakor sediga mek ombo ti phasho zuk ti. Then sarta ngasena par gyaba nangje chi sar lenk yore. Karse di zofta ti khona la melong na la. Then zugnya kharwa nangje chi ta khola sar shark yore. Di sharsa tela mek ombo la yoro.
So the eyes sees the object or the form, just like reflecting in the mirror. Because of that, we see the objects.
Mekhi pa de ta ngasundere chi ta onde phasho ko zuk zopta chik ni mek na lo ke teni nakpo chongchong ji yoba teni pa andro ne ti jawlo la shirgo na jen chik zungnya kharsa chi yonggo ro o tela khar kore ti zungnya rawo kharsa melon na je am shirgo na jen chi yoba tela mek ambo la kyor.
So when we see a form, then we see the shape itself, and we have a small object here inside our eyes, and that sends the lights to the place where there is a kind of a mirror-like thing, and which shows that and which recognizes the things that we call the eyes faculties.
Tendi ching onde ngasu mek ambo te da kyanchi. Ta tani mekken sin mekken te phasho yortire. Pha karbo yona, servo yona, mombo yona, kare yona yortire.
So the thing that we discussed right now is the dominant conditions or the main condition, and the second one is the object conditions, the thing that we see outside, which is the object condition.
Tani tema thaken seni ta pha taya trambi shiba ko dewo dawo china yella shiba segre. Pha zugla tagro ti kawla shiba chik ta go thani ta yoro.
So, and then there is another condition, which is a preceding condition. The idea of wanting to look at the object is known as the preceding condition.
tere 차상 시바도 지나 시바 강이나 소수 말로 대마 타나 전하마 지요래 미힐라 대나지요래 된다고 대라 대마 타견 라고요래
This Komazula.
시바 강이나 디 문대라 그런 전하마 지요로 전함이 시바 지요로 대라 대마 타견 라고요
The whatever perception do we have, the preceding the condition is known as the temathachen or the preceding condition. It is also in an easy way, maybe it says like following the other.
당가서 엄보텔라 열때 쳤다와 신데 샤르니 믹시가 대또나 되네 무슨 참아 세대 차로 그래 만터와 세대 차 그래
So basically, when the faculties sees things and understand it without any deception, then that can be known as a direct valid cognition.
다 얘나야 뭐네 바 타상 시바직다나 철 만터 세대 시 하장 깔리 가고요
But still, if we really look closely, then it is very difficult to differentiate sometime to see that if our perception is absolutely deceived or not deceived.
배는 가서 네 가와네 통도 그래 가와된 통도 그래 얘나 내가 이용 거 록돼서 빠른데 디 차네 가시데서 살고요 봐 단단하고 얘는 네 척 살고도 디퍼 살고면도 지난주 야 따나요 되네 가시 살고도요 가시 저 살고 매바도 차다요 또 돈그 돈나 살고 요바 매바디 캬버리 요 말어 인데 또 먹히된 저도 요선데 차도
For example, now we are seeing this pillar. Then, because of the lights and lightnings, I might see this clear from this side, but not the other side. And you might see clear from the other side, but not from the inside. Even though there is no difference in the object itself, because of the lights and conditions, we see it differently.
당가서 빼나 즉바직 응어라 다 파쇼 즉바텔라리 ndrichi 따다나 가히데스 까르보다고 가히데스 나고다고 전자마단다 통도 그던데 철로고 왔자운데 다 돈그 돈나 직바레데요 콘소 가히 서버 요바 가히 서버 매바 차요 말어 다 근데 얘는요 바 즉발로 따위 니 먹히대요 저 히렌도 삼바지 용거래
So even when we look at the wall out there, some part of the wall that we see little light or little bright, and some part of the wall we see little dark. Even though there is, in terms of the object itself or the meaning itself, even though there is no difference, but still we are seeing it bright and dark because of our eye sense power or the fault in our eyes.
베나 고쇼가 즉바다 파쇼가 즉바니 순도 즉바라 나 가서 단다 때다디 고쇼가 즉바데 나가도 데데스 까라도
For example, if we look at that, the wall nearby the door and the wall in the other side, even though they are still the same, but because of the lightning, we are not seeing the same.
다 단단 가서랑 그 jel라라 먹히 많더 봐지 간데다 칭도 소수 jel라 지난주 때에 나로네 돌아온다고 했지나
So maybe we might have a little discussion. If we can have a discussion about how we perceive from our eyes for some while, that will be good. Even the object is same, if we see from different angles and perspective, what kind of perception that we come up with.
Yeah. Ta ma chik soy na ma chik dare ro trang do sani chik labrok che. Ma chik inda.
Among you all, one of you please stand up and say what you feel or what you come up with. There. Mike. Mike didn't know why.
So I'm painting, and when we paint in some nature or buildings, we're not painting only flat color, because buildings and trees does not exist without any conditions. They exist with another buildings or light or shadows and everything. And when we paint in trees, we use any color but not green. Yeah, that's true. Because trees are not green, actually. They're yellow, they're black, they're red, everything. So when we see the red pillar, we actually do not see the red pillar. We see every color around this pillar. Well, that's why I see in this case. Thank you.
Lavate Yakundu. Tangasu Naso Rangatana So Young Sami Lam Samnatana Yang Yip Dang Kato Tendila Chaka Romachigan Chursona Tene Turdayo Sagri.
You said it pretty well. When we see the objects and all, then even from the perspective of the epistemology, when we see the colors and shape, it appears different.
That Sanrik Batas Tashi on the Titrumdi La Pashok Ubati Dana Kato City Mandus. Yanaya, what pass and draw on Kavla? Then Nasumaki Shivala Muk Nalon, Muka Ombo Yosa take around, then it Sundo the Kotik Chini, then it Sundo so Ton Young Dogs any Consuyan Tendilaki Yosari. The can't I can Muhi Mantra was the Rakali Kavoda Chajado.
So even according to the scientists, what they have come up with is when we see the color and all, there is no specific color in itself, but when we add with the eye sense perception, then we may come up with the colors and all. So basically, the eye's perception, this one, oh, that's why it's very difficult to find out the actually non-deceived eye sense consciousness or the vision, non-deceptive vision.
Then Omabatis is a gona, as we don't think in the Jarunana. Mugdon now Naya Samaman, Jedon Lidan, Yakan Samaman. Carte on the dot sayena, Papi Lamji Telachichas here. Tendi Yori. Tendila Tene, Berna Jawan, Karmapa, Contran Java, make a dorjis on Gonalola. Tene Mukishiva Samaji Yomares. Mukishiva Tamche, Mazu Suzuki, Mukishiva Tamche. You're telling, turn the your ass in what any song do.
So according to the Madhyamika Avatara from the Samadhi Raja Sutra, they says that there is no actual eyes or nose, ears, and sense consciousness as true. And also the Karmapa himself stated that there is nothing as such to say there is an absolute eye sense consciousness or the true valid eye sense consciousness, because it is always with the prejudices. Even though Karmapa has stated that, the Dodepa or the Swatantrika schools of philosophy, they says that there is a eye sense consciousness.
Tatani Tirangro Chini Navi Shiva Siete, Navi Ombotan, Dakin Navi Omotan, Yer Dragni Latini, Kiriova. The Ganoja Navi Omosum Siete, Dakin Neomotan, Makin, Gelatini, Kiriova, Utatani Marindu. 아 나비 공원데 맞다 나비 남히에서는 나비 원섬데 나비 공원 원섬데 텔라 단전 원섬 양성 거래 대강의 세대가 다킨 나비 공원다 다킨 나비 공원라 드네 자데 아트라니 나비 공원 자데 섬거요 근데 전에 드네 파이 McKinsey 열대 다체 쳐도요. 다 다도 나비 공원 이갈 때네 되네 나비 히바데 게요. 되네 나도 제르 되네 찬상을
So when we talk about the ear sense consciousness, at that time also there are three conditions. The dominant condition is our ear itself, and the object condition is the sound that you hear, and the preceding condition is the perception of the sound in our mind. And and then we can connect with all the other perception, like nose perception, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and all.
근데 지금데 맥기 히바 나비 히바 세엔데서 나수 냠냠 것도 안에 하고 고야지 그래.
When we say the eyes consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, these are the things that you have to realize through our experiences.
Pena lamka chigna phaandro yona lamka tenema sakndro sa yo dammel la sobati nasu higindoga ti mukhi shiba gyuni higor ma to shan kan hi thapshi ji yo mare tende yonde nga lamka thonshi chingdo a samde tene sosu gyula mukhi hiwa se de yo sosu monsung ga tani senare nyamnyong ga tani senare ti ran chok yore.
So, for example, when we are walking in the path, because of the eyes consciousness, we can see where to go and where not to go. This is the power of the eye sense consciousness. So, this we learn through our experience and our perceptions.
Tende chene ta ngonsam awu ngonsam se de musango yore.
So this is how we understand the direct valid cognition.
Ta awu ngonsam dan re ne ngasu ya te gente samna tan goya khahi chi kare yore se de ga perna tanda re karbo te so natsak to serwo thoyo ten rawo yana tene yeshi ga kanya samna tan go yo mare khoro natsak to serwo ran khare yo yore.
For example, if we have an illness like jaundice, then even the object is white, we see it yellow, but there is nothing to do with the perception in itself, but it is to with our faculty.
Tene chik shokpa ngawo tang tenri kaula thakpa chawo dawo chik mama pechi na tenri song kore thakpa chawo dawo chik thon dena dron duk dawo chani shena kye yore wa di kaula meki shiba la thakpa chawo de dron de sharke yo mare meki shiba din churi yo mare kora thakpa chawo rang sharo kola ina ngasu namtok tani nanga yigi shiba ga 나로가 이시대랑 저 드르세 셈나라 곰다요 드르 하고근 지인데 드르엔도 잠바치 용으로 대조 셈그다니 나로가 셈그다니 남희 가르서 이기 남희다니 용거요래 데레 캬버요래 디까고 어히디 드네 어히데라 드르 요바 샤려 말에 이나 동걸 새로 렌도 에너지 카르보직 새로 렌도 새로 샤용한테 어히 코나를 새로 샤르게요. 디니 어히는 철만적 켜버려요.
So another example is, for example, if we are early in the morning, if it's in a down time, if we can see things visibly, clearly, And if we walk, and if there is a small rope on the way, we might think it as a snake, but in fact it is not a snake. So this is not the fault of eyes itself, but it is the fault of our perception or the prejudices that we carry in our brain, which made us think that this is a snake. So this is not a fault of the eye sense consciousness, but the prejudices that we have. But in case of the color that we see when we have a jaundice, is the fault in our eyes consciousness itself.
na dress the country you have mako kanga bogota tende chega tende thapa thawon don thon dan drun du samne chahna ro lewa yo ma maki hiwa rang la khar kyo na chik bare to.
For example, if someone does not know how the snakes look, and if they see the rope out there, they never think there is a snake, or they don't get afraid because they don't have any perception of snakes in their mind.
Tene yo chik de kare yor se de pena me chik de me jamba chik na walan ro yo chambo yo me jamba chik drawo ye na khu domba thon yo wi kaw la sem ka na lo la chik de dukchang da won thon de chik de yakho da wo sing thon de tende chik yong ko yo de yo na lo nam to zu ro yo ma to Mugla Mugishivala Chikpadu Harkyo.
For example, there is one man who is very good with his friend. Then for his friend, he is a really good one and a good one to hang out with. But for other person, if someone is his enemy, then for that person, the same person will be very bad looking, or they don't even can see them. So this is not because the person is good or bad, but the perception or the prejudices that the other person carries that show him different.
Tende chingwande ta ni teso kenansol sugar gyamsan kare resediga mugi hewa ta te jawlo na yigi hewa chi lep ko te ni chamti te hikali khas yore te musnya chet ta ngi te la ko.
So why I'm sharing this example is because there is difficulties in understanding the perception or prejudices and the eye sense consciousness. That's why to differentiate them, I told these examples.
Tomba thuje chang kare song se diga mek number hiwi ngombo heges ngombo nyamda na maye no song re mek number hiwa se di ngombo higers na ngombo higres kola ngombo hyar go higres tores ngombo rendu da karo rendu da samkan te mek number hiwa mares te yigi number hiwa res o tendi song yore.
And Buddha himself has stated that our eyes can see the color blue, and understand that's blue, but the eyes itself cannot really differentiate the colors of if this is blue, this is black, this is green. This is all done by the perception of the mind, which does the work of differentiating, not the eyes.
Ta nga sun dere chene perna ramontawo zula khang na lo ramontawo dendi pha ta na tene yakpon du samba de de ramote che chang du de de chong chang du samba mkin ta jimbi kala samla ta yan do o de samla ta khenge lo te la yishi la ko yi ji shi ba.
So when we go in the monastery, or in this monastery, when we see these arts, we may feel this one is good, or this one is small, this one is big. These are all perceived by our mind or our mental perception.
Tende chingwande ta nga su ditsa chik ta na de chi pha ta do na me ki hiwa ta di jawlo na yi ji hiwa yang samla ta ni kan ro de yo wa ha ko ya do wa.
So when we see these examples, then we can understand it, right? That this, when we see the object or any form, then the eyes is working, but at the same time, our mental perception is working simultaneously.
Te na ja pe na na vi hiba nga zu jin da wo jing yan ni de den a te te nyam mo du da sa te shra nyam bo men do a sam ba te kang ga sam na tang ko se yang yi gi hiba re nyam mo du men du se te la ta hi da wo jing ngan de nga su na lo ko nam to nam hi de re
And also for the ear consciousness, when we listen to the sound or when we listen to the songs, and there are some, we feel this one is melodious, this one is not. All these things are coming from our mental perception.
Da tani kare ti su de kan de so da shra mo do ka ma chero mo do ro te yi gi ngo som ra ri ngo na jo ngo som ra ri ngo som te yi gi ngo som si shu ja ga te yi gi ngo som se de dan da de ji ta shin bi ka la hom bo do na ka ro da ta shin bi ka la me ga na be hi wi ji de na pa jo hom bo de sa ro hyan du sa ga yi gi hi ba ji yo re song ge yo re ti ka hi ga yo ma ri yang song ge yo re ti ki le ma ni ga yo re nga su yo no nyam nyong ta ni ko thok ko ma du nga ran ro ye na ngi ti yo ha ko ma du.
Now let's talk about the mental direct perception. When we talk about the mental direct perception, if we see the color blue and if we start looking at it more closely, then we feel like we see the color blue correctly, but there are a lot of contradiction that some agrees that there is a color blue and some believes there is not. So that's the contradiction that's going on. And for myself, if I see it, I can't really see in a clear way.
Tani somebody namjang ngosong re. Namjang ngosong se de nyamlen ba te su gom jab ne. Tani kansa ga dame ngosong da tok song ba so ya. Tongni ngosong da tok song ya so. Tuter ngosong da tok song wa so ya. Chaja chembo ngosong da tok song wa so ya. O de so la de ta wi phak pi yi shi. Ne lu ngosum dan thong da ba tende chela nanjo ngosum song yor.
And the third one is Naljar Ngosum, or the yogic direct perception. And the yogic direct perceptions comes from the meditations and practice, when they understand the selflessness of the nature, when they understand the simplicity, when they understand the emptiness. And that perception of yogic is known as the yogic direct perception.
Tene rangrik ngosum sete shiwate. Rangrik ngosum sete ya jagag pantha ta senare chamtha senare mandrava tesu nalo la kashi yore song yore kashi yo mare song yore. Gan tar gyang hipa khwarang ga khwarang ngosum da song yore siye chigre kowati.
And when we talk about the Rongring Ngosum, or the direct perception of self-cognizant, according to the Indian Panditas and Mahasiddhas, some of them says that there is direct sense perception, and some says that there is no direct sense perception. The direct sense perception is the understanding of the perception by the perception itself.
Ta tani parche terang techi kiran so trawa yuna trawa tongro che hiya chigena ngi higinduk seni lab chokore me hiwa chigena higimanduk se lab chokore ngaso chasan nansa re di kan kyabre yo mare.
So this is it for today. If you have any questions, you can ask. If you feel like you understand it, you can say, I'm understanding it. If you feel like you are not understanding it, you can say that you are not understanding it. As we are like a family, we can discuss on it. Please make sure that if you are asking questions, make it short and so easy to understand. Yeah.
Thank you, Khenpo Lobsang. I just want to ask if we look at the TV and we see some image, so there is just the TV. So is it like the fault of the object or the perception? Is that clear? Yes. So if we look at the screen, at the TV, a lot of things are happening, but in fact, there is just a TV. So if we make a mistake, is it the mistake of the object or our mistake of perception? This is so who is the fault? Is it the object or is it the way we see it?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Tibetan we call Tonya de Zunian. Zunian Sena Chitoni Pashaya did the Zugra in Bisonda. Yena Memayan Bala Mata Tonya. The Muki Hibi Hiva di Memayan Bala Mayan Bata was on. Tindi on the Nasu Jimmy Tamobatis Diaganta was shown which Lambochet and Tanton to the Sechoro. Jumankanga, Zumta of Teo di Tene, Diaganta was shown open, Drunda when the Nichi Tata Lamonton on Sechoro. That thing that was a partial with $1 to be non like Shartabi Zukchire. In a same gender with Ton to go. Same gender we had on the machine to your mate Tago, you know, Yishi did just know Yishi did. Then I'm hitting to the so that
So when we look at the TV and the objects or the films that we see is the image that is being displayed out there. And our sense, eye sense is seeing that. But for example, even in magic, even there is no snakes or animals, but they can make like there is a animal and snakes. So that's a projection that they can show. When even though there is no person sitting in the TV itself, but as our perception sees it, so in a way it's our deception of our eyes, consciousness.
Joey now is the Zuk Drigarendo. Zuk doing college not soon to some doubts in the Chick Lash on Kansas Charo. Chickpa Meva Chason, Ben Numbo Chida, Marbo Chida, Kare Serochiora. Dinan Kahikahi Trolas on it, any Yalon the Sumio. Chick Mess on a Sundo Kansas Tongo.
And even in TVs, if there are 3 or 4 colors that is going on, and one of them, if the one of them gets goes wrong, then the image itself displays in a wrong way, or the displays in a very strange way.
Yeah, then you try it there.
I will translate. So did I understood correct? That in order to train our direct perception, we need to learn how to distinguish the opinion from the facts.
Te pasona kare yoba te najan tonsona ti mukhi te ngasam lab chokyor.
Yes, you have understood correctly that the understanding the difference between opinion and the actual object is the direct perception.
Thank you very much. I have a problem in trusting with seeing things. I think eyes are cheaters because we have a lot of examples, like rainbow, for example, yes? But I don't understand why still we see the solid things. So is it the veils of the karma which makes us to see the solid reality? Okay?
Te chokchini lere, chokchini kiwani gombi gomchak tani bakchak mang shani tenin tongyon redo. Ngaso tamche ge zukchik tongyon. Ngaso tamche ge drak kogdo. Te kongre sengon de namhi se de teni pami zi inare. Teni ndorna semchen jiki gyori zukputi nala namhi de lewande kiwan pamati sola pa zuk tagi tabi bakcha gomcha de yowande di toge zuk na tela mika omo se chikcho dega na yo omo se chikcho deso zo mama gomcha bakcha se di zo di wang chongre songdo lida yin mare yena that leg rohpala sigurwa kensina lise di phuku jorwa yena tragi kende zo gomcha de insare.
Yes, it's partially karmic, partially our habit and our imprint from the lots of lives that you have taken. It's like that when we see, when we hear sound, this time we always make perceptions, and especially when we see bodies and all, we make the perception. So basically, the habits and imprints that you have carried from the past life or the past life, they are always imprints that you have in the beings. When the beings have this kind of imprints and habitual tendencies, then they have a perception, or they have a solidly taking things in their eyes perception, nose perception, and ear perception. Basically, it is a habit, but still karma is also a cause there.
Say na. Short and recent.
translate the question. Can the teacher, by the power of his realization, correct our mistaken perception? Louder? Did you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gegen yorala, gegen digi kogi the susigi topa digi, then kibo palbangan sadawi ki not this self tibires. Not this self tibires, the Mansuki Tata Tanang, the Tul de Yorala. Then gegen da vichila, then Tana Yang the Bachiana, cooking answer the self tibires adavish.
Tade gegen chabare gegen de korang gonguni nelu thonda yongkan ha gongkan chiyana na de ngaso tokpa de ser thokare ta korang ga yasaran thome na de kalikhaburo.
Basically, it differs to the teachers. If the realized master has the actual realization, then they can really help us clear our wrong conceptions. But otherwise, it's little difficult.
Hello. I want to ask, can you please give example of yogic direct perception?
Direct perception?
Yes. Yogic direct perception. Yogic.
Yogic.
Yogic, yes.
Yogic, sorry. The Naljiring Mosum Yura, Naljiring Mosum Gitene, Pudavchi, Chixon Rochis, Naljiring Mosum Gipudavchi.
Yeah. Tepe ya kore. Ta ngaso nanjang ngosam se de gadi kegre se de thonlam se de thobi kala kegre. Ta ting hon la gom yang nyamnen chengen tesu dame tesu yang de gom yang de gom ande sar royo chesar. Tane tawo donchi hark yore rakpa rawasi. Tani pa dame ke tonda sarna cher seni chesar roore. Kala kansam chig donchi harya mewa ke tane dame khana musun tondo ya ote yon kore. Ti kala tani tonlam ke ishi tawa te ta nanjang wasung chanje shanan rekare thoma ke ate dire.
When one reaches the path of seeing, then they have the direct perception. Before that, they practice the selflessness of the nature and the general understanding or the general realization. They go through that, and once they reach the path of seeing, then after that becomes clear for them to see the yogic direct perception.
Pena Sanji Chomdan de Homa Tathar Siya Chore. Tathar Siya de Homa Papa Sharipala Yedar Ma Heda Baba Heda Degan Tadangata Sejoro Yedar. De Chikson de Tani Koranga Di Niluk de la Pa Samnaji Town de Niluk de Monsum Tan Tonsori. Te sonde tene ti tonda la samla ta pa gom chik jak tene chen de tene pen jokwa chini niluk de ngonsum de.
One example is the Buddha had a disciple Tatul, and when the Shariputra taught him the Hetu Dharma and he reflected on it and meditated on it, he realized that yogic direct perception at that time.
Sanji chedan sanji korang sanji loma tesu dame ngonsum tan thoya la jogan do pe lamsang tok thoya tene ma tichot ma ro de yang te chik jopa dame ngonsum tan thoya te ya mayong wa do. Tende chang do do.
Basically, in the time of Buddha's time, for his disciple, it was much easier to realize the selflessness of nature directly, very easily at that time. But later on, it became more and more difficult.
Sanji tamba ma nyam do yore si ti ngoni ton do do samna dana ko wa ti tere.
So when we say the Buddha Dharma is degrading in a way, that also one of the example is that not being able to understand as much quickly as before.
Tanga su karmach thoya lefsong tene samjang nan riksare.
Now we are 10 minutes already late, so this is the end, we guess.
Sunondaye tamje zubanye tomne nive dana banje jega nanje balon chuba yesvin sulen do do. Chetana ya chitamma den chasas.